What's up, Tube? Welcome to Lo Guido's Chop Shop, second best gel blaster channel on the tubes. And today I've got a package here, which I will hopefully open. How about I just slide it out the side? Well packaged. Alright, this is a Perun V2 hybrid MOSFET fire control unit from StingOps Tactical. StingOps Tactical, I believe, are the distributors for the Perun MOSFET, and I'm no stranger to the Perun. I've used the Perun in a number of builds before, but it was not the hybrid that I've used in the past. It was the earlier version. Now, this is the first time I've actually used a hybrid, so it is in a heat-sealed static bag that I need to open, and I need to get a knife to open it, so bear with me 1 second. Alright, just getting it out of its static bag now. The Perun sort of is recognizable by their white PCB. That's a sort of like almost like a, not really a trademark, but it's a very trademarkish thing that Perun do. The really bright white, like a ceramic white PCB, which is cool. They've also got the wires for the mag terminals built in, which is cool. I think the last lot that I had to add my own wires for the mag terminals, so that's cool. Looks like it's got some fairly decent silicon wire and a Dean's connector stock, which is good because Dean's are the best connectors. I run them on most of my blasters anyway, so that's cool. Got a patch here from StingOps as well, which is cool. I do like it when I get patches because I got a board that I can put the patches on. Let's have a look at what else is in the box here, though. They're going to give us the Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades. No, it's the Ace of Perun. Ace of Spades. That card is handy. It's like a cheat sheet for how to set up the fire control unit with all the settings and stuff. It is done by pulling the trigger a number of times, and knowing the amount of times you've got to pull the trigger is pretty important because well, that's what does the settings. The other interesting thing here is this little device. This is what makes the Perun hybrid. This is very, very interesting. I'll get to this in a minute. We've also got an installation manual with stickers and more stickers, Perun stickers, and the actual stickers that you require to blank off your selector plate for the optical sensor. It's got a good lot of stickers as well, like all sorts of different varieties. There's one with a stripe and one with the white on the edge, so that's handy. It's always handy. I've never had to use too many of these, but it is handy to have more. I notice also, just side note, that this is mostly black with a white stripe, whereas I think most of the other ones are generally mostly white with perhaps a black stripe. So interesting. That means they've run their code in the other way. Interesting. Also, stickers that have essentially your cheat sheet on the back as well, which is good, I guess. If you forget your card or whatever, you can stick these on the inside lid of your carry case or whatever, and That way you never forget the codes. Now this is what makes the hybrid hybrid. The reason why it is a hybrid, in case you're wondering, the Perun optical had an optical sensor for the fire selector and an optical sensor for the trigger. Now let me just zoom in a bit for you. Hopefully you can see this clearly. So this hybrid model does have the optical sensors for the selector. It's also got an optical sensor for the sector gear. This has a magnet on it. So it must have a Hall effect trigger sensor. Is that what I'm feeling here? Hall effect trigger. So the selector and the sector are optical, and then the trigger is Hall effect. And that's what this little doodad is. So this little doodad is actually a magnet. Very magnetic. Very magnetic. It's a powerful little magnet, which attaches onto the top of your trigger. And then that, when you bring your trigger in, or when you pull your trigger, it brings the magnet in for the Hall effect. Which is very interesting, because one of the things that I was a little bit one of the things I didn't particularly love about the other previous optical Perun was that the trigger did feel dead. And I mean, that's a situation with almost all optical trigger units, is that there's no response from the trigger, because it's literally not physically pressing a button or anything, so you don't have that physical click or touch or wall or anything with the optical setup. I wonder if the Hall effect one is going to be any different. It does have this little screw which pokes out here, which I assume is for adjustment on your trigger, so you can fine adjust the location of the magnet on your particular trigger. That's something we'll look into when we put it together. Okay, I've just realized this does not contain a manual. This is the link to the manual. I was just like, I just got my manual to see. No, that's the link to the manual. So it comes with stickers, but it doesn't come with a manual. The manual's online, which is good, because I always lose my manuals anyway. So having access to it online is probably a better option, assuming they keep it online always. Alright, let's look at getting this installed. Alright, so I got a beautiful HSG V2 here, and the Perun is going to go in here. Now, I just got to check before we get too far in. Just got to check that it will fit in this box, because some boxes you have to modify a little bit. You have to like do a bit of grinding and whatnot, but I think this one might be okay. Let me just get some of these wires out of the way, just check that this fits and closes without fouling on anything. Yeah, easy. No problems at all. No problems at all. Alright. Now I'm going to get a, it will be a M3 screw there to hold it down. And then I'll run these wires in a nice neat run around these cable arrangements. Okay, so the screw hole to mount the board is that one there, and I have fished around my spares for a screw, and I found a screw which is, I'm pretty sure it's for this purpose. It is a nice flush flathead screw, and I mean flat as in like the head is not domed or protruding in any way. See how it's nice and flat? And I think it's in this case with this gearbox, it's a M2.5 I think, but that actually screws down in there, and it is important to find a screw that is flush like that. The one that actually came with the HSG gearbox is this one, and it wasn't. While it was fairly flat, the head was actually too small. It didn't grip down on the circuit board, so you have to find something that does grip down on the circuit board. Now it does actually say in the Perun manual not to use a washer or anything, and it says that there's no electronics underneath this part of the circuit board, so you don't have to worry about damaging anything, so you don't need like a special washer or insulation or anything there, so that's good. Still, don't crush the circuit board, you don't need that much torque, and the reason that you want it to be nice and flush and flat there is because your sector gear has to spin over the top of that, and you don't want that screw grinding on the bottom of your sector. But what you do want to do is on the non-toothed part of your gear, see if I can get this lined up. You want it to just be in line with that line on the board, on the circuit board. So anything that comes across that line is a tooth, because that line is actually the sensor beam. So it's hard to tell from the angle, but that looks pretty good. Next thing I'm going to do here is mount the magnet on the trigger. It should be designed so that this little unit will screw over the top of the trigger, and then you should be able to use this other screw here, this adjustment screw, to make sure it's nice and taut. So that little tab there, I believe, sits in there. And then this piece clamps down over the top of your trigger, and that gives your trigger a magnet for the Hall effect sensor. So my understanding is that the two screws should be enough to keep it taut, but then if you've got wobble in the top like this, you see I've got a little bit of play there, you can drive this third screw down just to take the wobble out. You're not trying to torque this up too hard, because otherwise you'll snap this piece. Not quite sure what this is made of. It looks like it may be some form of print. Alright, so there's absolutely no play in that now. Nice and firm, but this is not too tight that it's going to snap this piece off. There's your magnet in there. And this should be virtually good to go in here. And you can see this doesn't foul on anything. Make sure it doesn't foul on your gear or anything when it's in position. Alright, that should be good. Excellent. I see what they've done here. So it's quite ingenious what they've done here. They've got the Hall effect sensor down here in the front of the board, and the beam sensor for the sector down here. So essentially, this whole section of the circuit board behind the gear here, like where the screw is, this whole section here doesn't actually do much of anything. So you don't have to worry about too much stuff down there, like with some other boards I've seen. They've got Hall effect sensors up here which come over the top of the gear and get in the way, and some other things. But this is quite cool, and having the Hall effect sensor at the front here gives the trigger quite a lot of freedom as well. One thing which would probably make this just a little bit better, if I had a speed trigger with adjustable stops, which maybe I'll invest in at a later date. But for now, let's just get this in here like this. One of the things that's mentioned in the manual, because this trigger Hall effect sensor does differ from a lot of other traditional MOSFETs that are available, you may need to shim the trigger. You can see that there's a lateral movement there on the trigger that most traditional FETs and blasters and switches and whatnot, it doesn't really matter too much. But with the Hall effect sensor, being able to move the magnet further away from the Hall effect sensor, even by that much, could affect the sensitivity of your trigger. So they do recommend just whacking a couple of shims on that to eliminate any movement there. And the shaft, I believe, is the same diameter as most shims, so you should be able to just get some of your generic gearbox shims and shim it up on there. Yep, that'll work. Okay, I've added the sticker to the selector plate as per the instructions here. Just lining up the white edge with that edge. I did try to film the application of the sticker, but my camera was playing up, so it didn't work. Anyway, let's get this into the box. Now you can see here, the sticker is going to sit over the top of where these sensors are here when the selector plate goes into place. It's also worth noting this HSG gearbox that I'm using has a nice little window there, so you can check your engagement, which is cute and handy. Alright, so that is on there now. Now that I've got everything set up here, it's a good idea, before you even hook the motor up, to do a sensor check, which when you plug the battery in when there's no motor connected, you'll see some LED or a LED light flashing there, which means it's in sensor check mode. The LED will change color depending on the sensors that it detects. So if it flashes green, it means it's detecting the sector gear. Purple is it detecting the trigger pull, so if I like pull the trigger now, you can see it goes purple, so it's detecting the trigger pull. Green is the sector gear, but being that my sector gear is probably not in the right spot, they do recommend that you do this sensor test without all the rest of the gears and everything in the gearbox, and just do it with just the sector gear in place, but anybody got time for that? Alright, there we go. There's the green flashing because the sector teeth crossed the beam. And also the other sensor is the selector plate on the back. So white light is safe. You might have actually just seen it flashing white there when I picked it up because it was there we go, that's safe. Blue is semi and red is auto. So blue semi and white safe. Blue semi, red auto. So when I move the selector plate on the other side, you can see that it works. So it's basically telling me all the sensors are working, so we're good to go from here on in. If you were to move the selector plate on the other side and the lights didn't flash, then you probably need to want to adjust your sticker or something so that it works. But now that we know that works, we're going to push on, put it all back together, or together, I guess. Okay, so to program this, you got to flick it, start off in the setting that you want to program. So if it's semi that you want to program, you start off in semi, then you got to flick it to auto and back to semi quickly twice. Now this would be easier. Okay, so I'm in because I can hear the beeping. But what am I in? Green. So that's firing mode. Okay. So the issue is, what am I? Okay. Active brake level. One, two, three. I don't want that at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and off should be nothing. Alright, so the blue, active brake. Okay, so my kind of gripe that I have here with this is, while it does have a real nice card that tells you how to go through it, so you got green for firing mode, blue for active brake, yellow for pre-cocking, and the amount of beeps is, you press the trigger to cycle through, the amount of beeps is the level. And the card describes it quite clearly if you can see the card. My only issue is that flicking from semi to auto and back again quickly to get into the programming modes is cool. It's kind of expected. But these lights that designate the mode that it's in, if you actually, let me see if I can get this in shot. Can you see that? Just down in here, you can see the light. Just so happens that I've got a hole available there. But I think if this was in the receiver, you wouldn't be able to see the lights very easily. So purple and blue, that's binary trigger, flashing purple blue. Now purple green is 2-stage trigger, so you can have it like org. We have semi and then pull for auto, or trigger sensitivity. You can hear I've got that set to 5. Rate of fire reduction is 0. Now I've got a brushless motor in here that actually state in the manual, do not use rate of fire reduction for a brushless motor. Also, don't use active brake. It doesn't say that in the manual, but I think it's a good idea not to do it if you're using a brushless. Yeah, so you can see the colors change. I've got green and blue now for DSG mode. You can put it in DSG mode if you're DSG. I'm not DSG. And red is a master reset. And then back to blue, and then we're done. We're out of the programming mode. Now that's all well and good, but like I said, those colors are very difficult to see if you've got this in a receiver. If you don't have it in a receiver like me, then the flicking from selecting from one mode to the other mode is kind of difficult to do because you don't have your, like I don't have my thing. I'm doing it by just moving the plate. So it is a little bit of a pain in that aspect, but I mean, programming a lot of these MOSFETs is very similar. It's just a series of beeps and trigger pulls, and I like the addition of the light because it does give you a better idea of what mode or what menu you're in. Much better than some of the beeping systems I've used with other MOSFETs. However, it is very difficult to see the LED because it is, you know, inside there. So, you know, giveth, taketh. As far as trigger sensitivity goes, the Hall effect sensor does its job. Very sensitive trigger. Very nice. Fast fire rate. Yeah. Can't complain with that. Yeah, like I said, speed trigger would be good because I could adjust the stops. But yeah, like absolutely fantastic little MOSFET. I don't even know what I'm going to do with this. Maybe you should leave a comment in the video below to tell me what blaster this box should go into, because I haven't decided yet. Shout outs to StingOps, shout outs to Perun. Also, don't forget, you can hit up my face page if you want to buy a patch, and you can buy me a coffee in the link below if you enjoy what I'm doing here. Shout outs to those people who have bought me coffee. We got Adam Hoy, Steve Pierce, Thomas Roberts, and Rip. Thanks for watching. It's been enjoyable. Shout outs to HSG. Good V2 gearbox. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Peace.